This is our fourth lesson in Petty School Reading, and in this lesson we're going to learn our second consonant sound from Classical Latin, which is the sound k, k. Before we get started with that though, let's take a few seconds to just review what we've learned so far. In our first lesson, we talked about language. We said that human beings are the only creatures that use language. We said that language is used to share ideas, and we said that ideas are images in our mind of objects in the world, and these ideas are shared with language. And one of the ways that we share our ideas is with words. And we learned that there are two kinds of words. There are spoken words and there are written words. In Petty School Reading, we're learning about how to read and write written words. We learned that words are made up of syllables and that syllables are made up of letters. And then in our last lesson, we learned how to make syllables by combining vowels and consonants together. We make syllables, all right? We learned that vowels can make syllables by themselves. Just one letter can make a syllable. But consonants have to be joined to vowels to make syllables. In our last lesson, we learned the first consonant sound, which was b, the letter B. And we learned the different syllables that we can make. Ba, be, bi, bo, bu, ab, eb, ib, ob, ub. 10 syllables using the consonant B. In this lesson, we're going to learn a second consonant, the consonant ke, ke. Now, in English, the name of this letter is C, C. But in Classical Latin, the name of this letter is ke, ke. And it makes the sound k, k, k. Any time that we see this letter in Classical Latin, we read it with the sound k, k. And also, any time that we make the sound k, we could write it with the letter C. Okay, so this letter is a symbol of the sound k, k in Classical Latin. So what we're going to do here, very simply, is make syllables by combining our consonant k, k with each of our 5 classical vowel sounds. Okay, so we'll start by combining the consonant k with the vowel sound a. And when we do that, we make the syllable k, a, ka, ka. If we change the vowel and we use our second Classical Latin vowel sound, we now have ke, ke, ke. Our third vowel sound will make ki, ki, ki. If we add the vowel sound o to the consonant sound k, we make ko, ko, ko. And lastly, if we add the sound u to the consonant k, we make ku, ku, ku. So with the consonant sound k from Classical Latin, we now have 5 new syllables: ka, ke, ki, ko, and ku. All right? And we learned in our last lesson that we can also put the vowel sounds first, before the consonant. So we can put our consonant k, and we can put the vowel sound a before it, and make the syllable ak, ak, ak. We can change that and use our second vowel sound. And now we read ek, ek. change this and put our third vowel sound, E, and we now have eek, eek, eek. Our fourth vowel sound is O, and we can read this as oak, oak, oak. And lastly, we have oo, ook, ook, ook. All right, so that gives us 10 new syllables in this lesson just by adding one more consonant, the consonant sound k, k. All right, so using our hands again, this time, imagine if we put this symbol for the sound k in the middle of our hand, and then we read using our fingers, ka, ke, ki, ko, ku. Ka, ke, ki, ko, ku. We can also put the vowel first and say ak, ek, eek, ok, ook. All right? 10 new syllables. Now, if we go back to our last lesson and bring back our consonant b, b, we can make all different syllables. We can say ba, ka, be, ke, bi, ki, bo, ko, bu, ku, just by combining the different consonants and vowels. It's very, very simple. Let's have a little test, okay? I'm going to write a syllable here on the board. And let's see if you can read this syllable, okay? All you need to know are the sounds of the consonants that we learned, b and k, and the 5 vowel sounds. Ready? Here's the first one. Let's try this. Oops, sorry. How do you read this syllable? How do you read this syllable? What sound does this syllable make? We start with the sound b and add the sound e. This syllable makes the sound b, b. Did you get that right? We'll practice with a few more, but I want you to see if you can make the sound of the syllable before I tell you, okay? Let's try another one. I'm going to write a syllable on the board, and I want you to read it. Ready? Let's try. Let's try this. How do you read this syllable? How do you read this syllable? You should start with the sound O and then end with the sound B. Ob, ob, ob. If you read this with the sound ob, you got it right. If not, you need to practice. It's very simple. Just put the sounds together. Let's try this syllable. How do you read this syllable? We have the sound k and then the sound oo. If we read these two letters, we make the syllable ku, ku, ku. Let's try another one. How do you read this syllable? How do you read this syllable? It starts with the consonant b, b, and ends with the vowel e. When we put these two sounds together, we make the syllable be, be, be. Did you get that one right? Did you read this as be, be? Let's practice some more. How do you read this syllable? It starts with the consonant sound k, k, and ends with the vowel sound ah. How do we read this syllable? We read ka, ka, ka. Did you get that one right? Are you getting any of these wrong? If you're getting them wrong, why are you getting them wrong? Are you forgetting what the letters are symbols of? The letters are symbols of sounds. When you see the letter, simply make that sound and then put the sounds together to read the syllable. Reading is very simple if you know the letters and the sounds that they stand for. Let's try a couple more. How about this one? How do we read this syllable? You should start with the sound of this letter that we learned in our vowels, and you should end with the sound of this consonant that we learned in our last lesson. How do we read this syllable? We start with O and end with B. O, B. O, B. This is the syllable O, B. Okay? I hope that you got that one right. If you didn't, it's just because you're not learning the sounds for each letter and then simply saying the sounds together as they're written. Okay? We'll try one more, and then we're going to wrap up for this lesson. How do you read this syllable? It starts with the consonant sound k, k that we learned in this lesson, and the vowel sound E. The vowel sound E. All we need to do to read this syllable is put the two sounds together. Key, key, key. Now, if you are able to read these easily and get all of these right when we go over them, you're doing great. All we need to do is keep learning more consonants and learning how to read more and more syllables, and you'll be able to read any syllable. If you're having a hard time reading these syllables that I write on the board, it's probably because you just haven't learned the sounds of the letters yet. So you need to practice. And that's what you're going to do now as you go and study your lesson. So in this lesson, which is lesson 4 in Petty School Reading, what we learned is the consonant sound K, K. So far in Petty School Reading, we've learned 5 vowels, which you should remember using your hand, A, E, I, O, U. 5 classical Latin vowel sounds, and we've learned 2 consonants so far. The consonant sound B, which is written with the letter B in English, and the consonant sound K, which is written with the letter C, or K in English. Okay? So 5 vowels and 2 consonant sounds, and we already have 25 different syllables that we can write and read in English using these sounds from classical Latin. So here's a fun little challenge for you. Take out a sheet of paper and see if you can write all 25 syllables that we've learned so far. Okay? Make a list. Maybe mom or dad or an older brother or sister can make you a list of numbers from 1 to 25, and then see if you can think of all 25 syllables that we've learned so far and practice writing them out. Okay? So at the end of lesson 4, we've learned 25 different syllables using classical Latin pronunciation. We've got a lot more to learn in this course, but you can see this is very simple. It's very simple to read and write. You simply have to learn the letters, learn the sounds that the letter represents, and then put those sounds together by writing the letters in the way that you want the sounds to be made. It's very, very simple. Key, key. Very simple. So practice. A, E, I, O, U. Ba, be, bi, bo, bu. Ab, eb, ib, ob, ub. Ka, ke, ki, ko, ku. Ak, ek, ik, ok, ook. That's what we've learned so far. I hope that's helpful. I know that's a lot of information, but you have time now to go and study and learn all of this. If you need any help, you can have mom or dad or an older brother or sister write to us and ask any questions you have, and we'll help you with anything that you're having a difficult time with. But get to work, study hard, memorize your letters and sounds, and you're going to be reading in no time. God bless your studies.